Sure, are we good? Let's go. Okay. So we have quite a complex scenario pretty much unfolding across portions really stretching from Nebraska, really from the Missouri Valley into the mid-Mississippi Valley. As well, I think this could evolve even further north, really into the Dakotas, really. Um, Quite a complex upper air pattern. We're going to be dealing with that northwesterly flow regime, upper level low located over the northwest, and that upper level low is going to pretty much shift off to the east throughout the day. I could fire some thunderstorms over North Dakota. I think uncertainty does exist really with timing and really intensity too. As well, some cams have a little bit noted at least a more severe MCS evolving that dives south into the Missouri Valley late overnight. But overall, throughout the morning, it looks like there's gonna be an MCS active somewhere over Nebraska, and that's just gonna slide along that DD gradient early in the throughout the pretty much the middle of the day. Maybe it's the evening hours. I think timing is something to be worth watching, but overall, gonna have to see. But do have a marginal risk. I think a slight risk could be it. I think this is a pretty low confidence forecast really right now, and really understand what's going on right now. Again, we're gonna take a look at water vapor imagery. You can see pretty much large scale ridging over the west coast right now. We're seeing um, quite anomalously hot temperatures across the region over top or under the ridge, and then pretty much impinging on the ridge we have an upper level low located just ejecting into the Pacific Northwest. That fluent flow aloft, pretty textbook. Now to the east we have an upper level low that's been located over there for quite a long time, diving a little bit further to the south, and many short waves are noted really that are just spiraling around this big. And we do have thunderstorms active over Michigan and Wisconsin, really located just right out ahead of this another short wave. And then that pretty much in between this, we're seeing seeing some zonal to northwesterly flow. Some thunderstorms are active. I think it's a little bit of a weak short wave that's diving a little bit further south into Oklahoma now. This is a pretty. And off to the east, large scale ridging again. We have the southwesterly flow over the northeast, and they're going to see continued really thunderstorm threats really throughout the next quite a long stretch. And take a look at 500 millibars. Nothing. Pretty much mentioned everything really. We're gonna go down to 850. Nothing really too much happening. We'll 700 millibars again. We sort of seeing the same general things. We're seeing some short waves really embedded within the really large scale main flow. We'll take a look at the surface pattern. So really, we have a boundary. We'll take a look. We have a boundary draped really. Sort of see those northerlies, and that's gonna pretty much dive a little bit further to the south as that short wave continues to really pretty potent short wave located. That's just gonna continue to really eject and really begin to really dig. That's gonna really force that boundary off down to the south. Probably see it pretty easily on here, and that's just gonna pretty much dive south as a response to that short wave really diving in. And we do have some thunderstorms over Missouri, but that's unrelated. It's Jersey sounding. We'll take a look further south. We do have a pretty very unstable air mass still in place. Currently sitting at 88 over 76 over Oklahoma. And as of 0Z, which was quite a few hours ago, I think dew points probably dropped by quite a bit. But we're probably seeing some 70s. Yeah, still seeing some 70s. Pretty widespread. And that very moist air mass, especially over the southeast, that's going to affect a little bit further an inch, a little bit northward, pretty much be right on top of that boundary. And could probably see those really moist dew points really that are going to be in place. See how the wrap. I haven't checked out 3Z wrap, so this is gonna be interesting. Again, we have a short wave, really a pretty strong wave over the over Nebraska and South Dakota. That sort of sits there, and then we have an upper level low begin to really make its way over the northwest and stretching into the high plains. Pretty much throughout Tuesday morning with a strong wave over South Dakota and Nebraska. That's going to be associated with probably an MCS. That's going to dive off to the south and east throughout the day. That's a pretty vigorous short wave. And that's upper level low is going to continue to really dive off to the east. So this is pretty classic, really. Ring of fire pattern. We have an upper level anticyclone located over New Mexico. And we have those short waves just continuing to really ride along that. And also, we have a broader upper level low. Move down to 700 millibars. We can probably see quite easily a pretty easy 700 millibar short wave really noted. And then overnight, though, we're gonna have a pretty anomalous little jet begin to really make its ground over portions of Missouri into Arkansas, as well as stretching southwest. As you can see, this is really gonna pump some really anomalous moisture. We could take a look at precipitable water values, but they're gonna be well over 2 inches probably. Pretty much right along that boundary, you can see well over 2 inches, and we could probably see some backbuilding convection right behind this MCS, as well as what's been hinted. And with persistent rounds of convection, this could really bring up some concerns really for significance for flash flood event across portions really in western Missouri into southern Illinois. Where this convection is going to take place is really going to matter. It's pretty uncertain at this point. And really nailing it down right now is going to be impossible. But there's definitely some potential that's going to really be what's going to happen. NAM sort of evolves this the same way. We definitely have a lot more of a potent short wave. We're seeing a 70 plus knot speed max nearing 80 knots. That's going to dive off to the south and east. It's going to be a robust short wave. And then the next day, we sort of see the same thing. We have more storms develop in the high plains, right east. And that's just going to allow for some more. It's going to be over the exact same areas. And then we have a short wave coming in off to the east over the Great Lakes region coming into Thursday. So that's sort of what the upper air pattern is going to look like. We'll take a look at what the surface pattern looks like. The surface temperature. And we have the surface side that's going to really prevail and slide off to the east. Boundary is going to pretty much just dive down. That's pretty much a surface response. The cyclogenesis over Canada. That's a result of that trough. Going to pretty much see it. But notice really over the high plains, we see a very anomalous surface low getting pretty much established around 1,000 millibars. That's quite anomalous really for this time of year. And we have that southwesterly, that's going to be pretty much aiding really. We're going to have pretty much a cyclone-induced low-level jet that's going to really be established and affecting that very highly favorable moisture for potentially significant rainfall rates, as well as potentially favorable instability too for some severe storms. But we're going to cover sort of the more mesoscale, I guess, behind this in a minute. Yeah, we store all the moisture pretty much in place. That's gonna pretty much nose its way north, pretty much get itself right along the boundary the day before. And you see that instability act. See that axis begin to really set up, and that's gonna allow for some MCSs really to potentially one or more to really train over the same area. That boundary should lift a little bit northward Wednesday as pretty much as a result really of the approaching upper level low. And you could probably see that on the NAM. See that moist? Yeah, you can see that moisture a little bit. Yeah, being evicted further north. Sort of see that boundary still, some reminiscence really of that boundary. Could be still a favorite corridor for some more storm, especially within within the waves. I pretty much shortwave noted that the NAM has. I think the SREF as well favors this too. You can just figure this out pretty quickly. I'm pretty much confident. Yeah, it does. Yeah, that's pretty easy. But I think really nailing down where this boundary will be and where we'll see these repeated rounds of convection. That's gonna be the main challenge, but we'll take a look at I think the wrap probably. We'll see what it has for the environment right now. It's strong instability really develops. We're probably gonna see as that short wave really comes in, we're gonna see some supercells probably develop tomorrow. You can probably see on the HER. Yeah, you see some pretty much gonna be probably more supercellular over Wyoming into Dakotas. That is just gonna pretty much quickly shift off to the east. I don't know really about timing. If it's really gonna be this fast, and then that's gonna probably gradually organize into pretty much a pretty well organized MCS. I don't really agree with how it's handling the convection, but we're gonna probably see a pretty organized MCS really evolve across the region. See that southeasterly flow? We can take a look at it. We can get a sounding over. Yeah, you can see probably where we'll get it. Why not? Why not? So this is in northeast Wyoming. Pretty dry, but pretty sure convection is gonna be well on gone by then. And pretty favorable photographs as well, especially we have pretty lackluster low level shear, and that's pretty favorable for some significant hail. And then late overnight, we're gonna take a look at it. Late overnight, that boundary sort of lifts north. We're gonna get some sounding over. So I don't know. We're just gonna just a little bit. We'll get a little bit just there. Why not? It is pretty stable in the low levels, which could bring up some concern really about really damaging wind production. Really, I think it's really the extent of how stable the low levels will be. Where we'll get her. We'll see what the HER does, because even then I don't particularly know for sure how well it's gonna really handle. We'll get some. I think 70s dew points are gonna be pretty much pretty realistic. Yeah, it's not really to the extent. It definitely could really impinge really on some damaging wind potential. But if we see most unstable key values, strong elevated instability, we can see really those parcels to become buoyant. late overnight. That's going to be pretty much key, and there are going to be some damaging winds, really, within that MCS, but it's sort of right now, it's sort of up in the air. Her might be underdoing its stability. Don't know exactly for sure just yet, though. So that's sort of the issue right now. We'll take a look at the, I'm pretty sure confidence really with, storms over, Central Plains throughout tomorrow is pretty, that's pretty confident really that we're going to see some supercells really develop within a pretty favorable environment. I think that's a pretty good corridor. I think really once we get into Tuesday itself, that's when the forecasts become really uncertain. So we have a short wave slide off to the south and east, and I think really extent of instability is gonna be something really to watch on Tuesday. But we're gonna see a very favorable air mass really set up over the mid Mississippi Valley into. So I'm pretty much depicting. We'll go to mixed layer Cape values. It's not overnight. It's pretty well capped, but doesn't really matter. If an MCS is that strong, it's going to be easily able to really impinge on the cap, but that sort of depends. If we get a strong cold pool associated to, that's definitely, it's all going to really matter. But we're seeing pretty much mixed layer K values over 3,000 to 4, particularly over 4,000 joules per kilogram, mainly maximized over Tennessee and Kentucky. That's going to be sort of where we're going to have to watch it really downstream evolution, especially over Missouri. Some weakening might be possible. I think instability is going to be rather on the margins. But once it enters St. Louis, or particularly anywhere westward, definitely could see some re-strengthening as it runs into a particularly very unstable air mass. And it sort of just depends right now. I think we'll see what the NAM. Look there. NAM as well sort of has that very unstable air mass in place, a little bit more localized compared to the RAP, but we're seeing with K values well over 4,000 joules per kilogram in spots. I wouldn't say that's unrealistic at all. Honestly, in the backside, late overnight, we see really a little bit of a plume of elevated instability behind this MCS. We're going to see some back building convection. That's when you get concerned really for some flash flooding over as we see training storms. And these are going to be mainly narrow bands of convection, which is going to be really hard to forecast really. So that's sort of really the main challenge. It's definitely placement. We can go over to HREF right now. And we can go to like 21Z, why not? Go to 21Z. And I'm betting there's going to be quite a different. Ferd has an MCS pretty much shoved all the way down south into pretty quickly going off down to the south and east. Pretty shocking. And then NSSL definitely a lot slower actually. Might definitely turn more into a smaller scale bone segment really. A little bit to the west, to the east I mean of her. That's good to know. Yeah, that pretty much slides off down to the south and east. seen that pretty much representing though a pretty small scale bony segment, a little bit even further off to the east, pretty much just re-strengthens, and that's a pretty potent bone segment. Yeah, it's sort of east, just like the you see a little bit of some back building convection really begin to develop on the FE3, and then damn 3 kilometers just not believe of it at all. So I think more than likely it's gonna happen. I don't think the damn 3 kilometers is gonna happen at all, honestly. 500 millibars sort of evolves everything. By the short, we really begin to into Missouri throughout sort of the mid-morning hours. It's to midday. It pretty much slides into southern Illinois into the evening, and it's a pretty potent shortwave. When it comes to really tornado potential, we're just gonna do it. We're just gonna see. Yeah, we see those high SCP values. I'm gonna say some breaking news to everyone. Look, you see this? We're gonna get sounding we on the bullseye. And I'm betting. I'm making my bet right now. Sounds about right. It's not gonna fire. It's not. I doubt it. Anyways, there's gonna be pretty much a ton of subsidence really left behind the MCS, and there's not gonna be anything to overturn right along that boundary. I'm making my doubts. I'm thinking if any really is gonna be behind the MCS, it's gonna be any convection really that does happen. It's gonna be some back building convection. That's gonna be pretty much. It's gonna be somewhere, but where the SCP values are really high, where you have. Oh, this even. Alright, that's good to know, but it's not happening. I think subsidence is gonna be huge from the MCSs, and you're gonna have a pretty well capped environment, and that's never gonna really erode due to really the more nebulous forcing really, and that's sort of, and that's definitely gonna require more of a robust MCS really to penetrate through the pretty strong capping version, but that's really it. That's all I really need to say. This might be a longer one actually, so that's sort of how it is. But apart from that, that's really it. Farewell.